The choices you have when trying to choose a sugar substitute can feel overwhelming.
Well, today on WTF, we're going to go over all of our sugar substitutes in one episode. Hello and welcome to WTF, where we transform food here in the Modernist Pantry Test Kitchen. I'm Chef Scott Guerin.
And I'm Janie Wang, the owner of Modernist Pantry. Today, Scott and I are going to be talking all about sugar substitutes, and it's a pretty big topic, and as you see here, we have 7 different products that we're trying to cover. We got demos. It's going to be a really exciting episode, so definitely, get comfortable and stick with us.
Yeah, stick with us, because we do have some really cool demos that we're going to be doing. One with glucose, and then another one, actually 2 glucose ones, and then we also have a third recipe that we made with sorbitol.
Yeah, so let's first just kind of cover what are the sugar substitutes that we're talking about today, and then maybe some of the different categories that we've used to break them up to make it a little less confusing so we're not rambling on for 25 minutes.
Sure, so we're going to break them into 2 categories first, and it's going to be natural ones and then synthetic. Mm-hmm. So the natural ones always end in OSE or OS. Mm-hmm. So glucose, dextrose, and fructose.
Okay.
So glucose, dextrose, they come from corn, and fructose comes from a number. I mean, you can find it in almost any type of fruit.
Yeah, I believe ours is also from corn.
Okay, so so you can definitely find them in different things, but corn is the easiest one to get it from, because corn has such a high sugar content. Mm-hmm. So those are really easy because you can just take them and you can substitute them for traditional, table sugar, granulated sugar, sucrose.
Okay, and so we talked about natural. What's the opposite side of natural?
So the opposite is just synthetic. So they're sugar alcohols. One that we've talked about before, episode 131, was isomalt. Yep. That's a sugar alcohol. Mm-hmm. But they are xylitol, sorbitol, mannitol, and maltitol. Oh. So with those, xylitol and sorbitol, you can actually make like hard candies and things out of. Okay. With the maltitol and mannitol, you can use them just as a sweetener. You can't really melt them into like a hard candy or something like that.
Okay. So aside from their origins being natural or synthetic, what are some of the other ways that we tend to differentiate them when we're thinking about which one should we use?
Sure. So that's actually a really good question, and also why would we use these, some of these as opposed to sucrose or table sugar. Mm-hmm. We'll start with the OSes. That's easy. So dextrose, glucose, fructose. The dextrose and the glucose and the fructose don't really have that straightforward sugary flavor to them. They have a sweet flavor to them, but something like granulated sugar has a sugar flavor to it. Mm-hmm. So if you wanted to just add sweetness to it without adding any extra flavor, then you can use the dextrose, glucose, fructose. Okay. But there's another caveat to it, is that they have different relativity and sweetness. So let's just use granulated sugar as the platform. We'll just say that's 100%. Okay. Something like dextrose or glucose has lower, where fructose can go all the way up to 117% the sweetness. That's why it's used in things like sodas and whatnot, because it's just so much sweeter. You have to use less, or you can use less.
And I think fructose sometimes gets a bad rap nowadays because it's so associated now with high fructose corn syrup, which people have, in my opinion, kind of unfairly come to associate with being a bad ingredient, and I don't think it is.
No, it's just a sugar. It does the exact same thing that a normal, granulated sugar would do.
Yep. So, but anyway, so back to relative sweetness. When we talk about the synthetic ingredients, kind of what are their relative sweetnesses relative to table sugar?
Yeah, so they can go all the way up to around 90. Something like a mannitol can be around 90. Sorbitol is around 60% as sweet as table sugar. So it really depends on what you're trying to do. If you're trying to make a hard candy, if you're just trying to add sweetness, if you're trying to make a simple syrup, you can kind of gauge, which one you want to use. And if you're going to do something and you don't want it to be as sweet, then you go with something like sorbitol or glucose, which we used in our Parmesan ice cream here. We don't want it to be super sweet. We don't want it to be knocking you in the face. You just want the structure that comes with it. So that's why we use something like the glucose in it.
Right. And I know that a lot of times when people are thinking about if they want to use a substitute, it's for health reasons, and they want to have something that's more, or I guess less sugary than sugar.
Yeah. So
let me just repeat myself a bunch of times.
So big things people look for, calorie intake is one of them, and then also glycemic index. So things like the OSes, the glucose, dextrose, and fructose will obviously spike your insulin levels. They will react slightly differently than granulated sugar, but then the tols, the mannitol, maltitol, xylitol, and sorbitol, they don't really spike your insulin levels, and you can use them for lower calorie intake, which actually the gummies that we have here are mint julep gummies, coming up for the Kentucky Derby, and we use sorbitol in that. It's kind of like a skinny, that's how I keep my svelte figure, is I always use sorbitol, so I don't get all that, extra calories.
Okay, so if somebody has a concern about, like diabetes or potential for diabetes, they would they're better off using the sugar alcohols than the OSes.
Exactly.
Okay,
yes.
well, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, you can use them, like you're saying, in the hard candy. So if you wanted to make like a hard candy for someone who is diabetic or someone who just doesn't want all the extra calories, you can use something like xylitol or sorbitol.
Yeah, and that's a great tip just for people who are trying to decide what they want to use. Sure. And don't worry, if you don't have this 100% memorized, there's going to be a chart right up on the blog in the link underneath this post. Where you can easily get all the comp information.
Sure. So I'm going to actually get into a demo now because
I'm
right around the right spot for it. So I have this beautifully golden brown. I'm sure people have been looking at it. I've made a caramel. This has glucose. It has table sugar, so regular table sugar, which is fine. You can mix these.
Right.
If you wanted to just, not use as much sugar and you wanted to substitute any one of these in, that's totally fine. You can still get the same sweetness. There's a little bit of honey in here. What we're making is honeycomb. You can actually see it here because we won't be able to, I won't be able to get my hands on it and break it today because it'll burn me. So I have this, and what I'm going to add is baking soda. So I'm going to pour some baking soda in here, and I'm going to whisk it up, and you're going to see it, capture all those little bubbles and make this nice crunchy candy that works great for like garnishes. You could also dip it in chocolate if you wanted to make like a really nice kind of like a British candy bar called Crunchy.
Ooh,
so
okay.
I have this here. I'm actually going to pull out my thermometer so I can easily move it over.
Right. And what temperature is that at right now?
So I did this up to around 338, which is where I like it. You can go a little bit higher, like 345, but I didn't want to push it too far. But now if I add my baking soda and I just whisk it in, you'll see it start to react.
Wow, look at that. Oh my goodness.
And it's beautiful.
Yep, it's foaming like crazy.
And then I just put it into my silicone molds. And it'll hold on to all that air. You can see it's still coming up.
Oh no, it's going to overflow.
It's okay.
Okay.
Knock it down a little bit. Very easy to do. But I'll just save it like this, and you can chip these out too if they're in here. You just get these really nice shards that you can bust up and make some really beautiful. It's easy just to knock down. But you can make some really beautiful garnishes, right? If you dip them in different things or you flavor them slightly differently. This one just has honey. It makes a really nice honeycomb. And one of the things is if it sticks to your teeth a little bit, then you've done it right. You've nailed it.
It does taste just like a honeycomb.
Yep.
It definitely is sticking to your teeth.
It's totally fine. Yep.
Well, that was great, and it looks super easy to make.
Yeah, and you just want to make sure you have all those beautiful bubbles in there so you can bust them up and make the really beautiful, garnishes. It's really a garnish. You wouldn't just take a big hunk of this and eat it for.
Now you tell me.
I mean, that's more of a garnish size, so that's perfectly fine. Our next one is our Parmesan ice cream. So we did this to show off that you can use these, get the structure of sugar, but you don't have to have all the sweetness. So we made a Parmesan sablé cookie, and then we made our Parmesan ice cream here, and I'm just going to make a nice little canal.
So this is a savory ice cream.
Yeah, it's still sweet in a sense that we did use some sugar in it or some sweetener in it. And then we have a nice Parmesan crisp here. And Janie, if you wanted to, you can taste it.
Can I just eat it straight from here?
You can eat. I mean, you can bust that up too if you want. If you want to just eat it with all the components, go right ahead.
Okay.
But it's really nice because it looks like it would be a sweet dessert, but you get all the savory elements.
I don't know how to crack up this cracker, so
it's okay.
All right. So cheesy.
It is. It's packed full of Parmesan. And this is actually more like a sherbet than anything. So.
Yeah, it's like an umami sherbet. Super good.
Great. So we do have one more thing to eat. Okay. This is the Janie Eats episode, apparently. So we have a mint julep gummy that we made. It uses Instagel, so you don't have to heat the gelatin so much. We do heat it just slightly, just to make sure that we mix everything in. And it is a nice little edible cocktail, so it is alcoholic if you make it properly. Janie, go right ahead.
Okay.
It's getting a little late in the day, so that's totally fine. You can do it.
You know I don't care what time of the day it is.
So there's just mint, some bourbon in there. And we try to make it as powerful as possible. We put some of the menthol flavor drops that we have here at Modernist Pantry in there to really kind of punch up that mint.
These are really nice. And because we've never talked about Instagel, can you quickly just go over like what is Instagel?
Yes, so that's cool. Instagel is a gelatin that you can mix in and it will set cold. So you can just blend it right in and you'll have a gelatin mixture that's cold. So if you're trying to preserve all the flavor without having to heat it, you can use Instagel instead of regular gelatin, which you have to bloom, then heat, and then let set.
I think one of the things that we've been talking a lot about here in the kitchen is flavor release.
Yes.
And how does Instagel do on that flavor release? Not to go off on a tangent, but
that's totally fine. It'd take me 2 seconds to do this one. Gelatin or Instagel has the best flavor release because it melts at body temperature. So if something melts closer to your body temperature, when you eat it, it'll melt right away and you get all the flavor of it. Whereas something like agar doesn't melt until 185 degrees. No matter how hard we chew or how fast, we can't possibly melt it when we eat it. So it won't have the best flavor release compared to like a gelatin.
Yeah, and what I like about most of the things that we've done here today is that they're not like super sweet. So I definitely always prefer something on the less sweet side. So it's really nice because it never feels like the sweetness is overpowering anything.
Yeah, and that's good. A lot of people don't balance when they do desserts. It's always sweet, 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 when you can have a lot of different complex flavors in a dessert.
Yeah, so if you're at home, you're watching this, you're like, great, but I still have no idea how to choose what I'm going to use. Do you have any general tips and tricks for people who are trying to decide, who might be thinking about, what they might want to use?
Yeah, I would definitely start. Do you want something that's natural? Are you making a hard candy? Are you going to be caramelizing it? Then you're going to have to go with, dextrose, glucose, fructose. If you don't want the calories, then you go with sorbitol, xylitol. If you're just looking to sweeten something and not add any calories or add a very minimal amount of calories, maltitol and mannitol are the best ones for you.
Yeah. Which ones are the ones that people are sensitive to? I know that sometimes people have bad reactions to a couple of them.
Yeah, so any of the sugar alcohols generally, if you eat an abundance of them, I know that if you eat an entire bag of sugar-free gummy bears, it can give you a little digestion problems, but that's about it.
Got it. So don't eat all those.
Yeah, don't just eat the stuff with a spoon. So.
Okay, awesome. So is there anything else we want to leave the folks with today?
No, it's really up to you. Whatever you're doing, you can pick which one you want, and definitely check out that chart just so you can see exactly the differences between all of these.
Great. Well, from here in the Modernist Pantry Test Kitchen, I'm Janie Wang.
And I'm Scott Guerin. We hope you enjoyed today's episode. And if you want these great recipes and these awesome ingredients, first you're going to have to like, comment, and subscribe. And then you're going to go to blog.modernistpantry.com where you can find those awesome recipes and you can ask a chef. And to get these great ingredients, go to modernistpantry.com. And until next time, we'll be here in the Modernist Pantry Test Kitchen helping you transform food.